I want to continue making films in education, but I'd like to do fiscal sponsorships.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't have a nonprofit anymore. So I want to find nonprofits that I can partner with that are fiscal sponsors, and nonprofits, you know what fiscal sponsorship is. So I don't have a nonprofit, but I want to partner with for-profit companies that can maybe co-produce, executive produce films, and it benefits a nonprofit. And if you don't know what fiscal sponsorship is,
I know,
okay.
right.
So my question is the feasibility of doing that. It's sort of a backwards question, not being a nonprofit, but aligning with something.
Yeah, I think that's, all of these are unique structures. There are no rules to this at all. So go ahead, I'm sorry, Jonathan is the expert here.
Well, recently Skoll funded a bunch of fiscal, the Skoll Foundation up north funded a bunch of fiscal sponsorships for documentaries through nonprofits, so documentaries typically lose money and don't generate profits. We were talking about documentaries and funding through nonprofits. So it's something that through at least one of the larger foundations up north, the Skoll Foundation, has begun to fund these. They gave a number of awards earlier this month. I think there were 10 $150,000 awards that went to for-profit filmmakers to make documentaries for the programs of the not-for-profits. There were no expected profits at the end because most documentaries don't make money. If there are any revenue receipts for it, it'll go back to the nonprofit, but it's not a fully sustainable loop because they probably won't make a profit off of anything that'll come from that other than the program money and maybe some DVD sales and others at some point. But the model's being done in the documentary.
Skoll Foundation is Jeff Skoll, who founded eBay. He's one of these big guys. And I thought that he runs something called Participant Films.
Participant Media.
And one of the first things they did, which I thought was remarkably cool, is they took Gandhi and translated it into Arabic and sent out 1 million copies of it. I just thought that was brilliant.
My thought and question is around earned income. One of the strategies that we developed this year to diversify our funding, in addition to individual and corporate donations and events, was to create an earned income component. And that involves selling our services, our political education, strategic planning, GIS mapping, and those kinds of services that we've been providing to nonprofits over the years, practically for free. So, for example, we'll train 20 people in a nonprofit on GIS mapping, for example, and we'll charge $1,000. We were charging $1,000 before I came on board. My challenge now is like, how do we determine like what is the going rate, and how do we get people to think that this is a service that we can no longer afford to give away, that we need to. We're not going to create a business, but we wanted to create a business. So
that is a very nonprofit answer that business would never say, that a private business would never say. They would never go, so how do we convince our clients to buy something we used to give away? They go the other way usually. They say, what does the customer want? They survey the customer and customer needs, and then build a business around it. It's very typical nonprofit to go, here's what we have, how do we force it down? So to me, I go the other way. I would go back to a feasibility and sit with the nonprofits and ask them the question, which is, do they need this? How would they value this? And how are they going to pay for it? So go the other way. I mean, in businesses and in entrepreneurship, we start with a feasibility study. And the feasibility study is a market study. What does the market want? What would they pay for it? And then go backwards rather than, here's our, as somebody put it to me recently, I've never seen a business plan that didn't show that the company's going to make money.
How do you spell your name?
Adlai, A-D-L-A-I, sorry. That was the easiest question yet.
We're currently searching for a stage director. Amber with Best Buddies, we're currently looking for a stage director, and I just want to know what made you switch from iBanking to the nonprofit sector? I mean, obviously you have a clear passion for working with the homeless. Did that exist before, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, to me, just from a very personal standpoint, I knew I was going to be working in nonprofit since I was 5 years old. We're doing community service my whole life. It was just a matter of when for me. I literally tripped across Wall Street. I was graduating from college, and on graduation day, a professor said to me, "What are you going to do after you graduate?" I said, "I have no idea." And he said, "Well, go see my friend at the mall on Long Island before you leave." The guy at the mall turned out to be a branch manager at a brokerage firm who sent me to the president of the firm, and that started an 18-year career. But I always said I was going to quit. There's a famous, maybe the AIG days, it makes more sense these days, there's a famous saying on Wall Street, which is one more bonus and then I'll quit. Just one more bonus, that's all. You know that great Bernard Baruch line when they asked Bernard Baruch how much money is enough, and his response was just a little bit more.
One more bonus than I don't have to give back.
Right. So for me, it was just a matter of time. Like LaShawn in the back, my brother passed away in '94, and it had a big effect on my life as to timing. I said, I was 35, he was 40. I said, well, maybe I won't live forever. 2 years later, I got cancer. I said, okay, there's a great story, a religious story about the flood, and I'll shut up after this, but it's a great story. You know this flood story. So the guy's in his house and says, and the police come up in a car, and they say to him, "A flood's coming, you got to get in the car and go away." And he said, no, God will take care of me. And then the waters rise, and a boat comes, and he's on the second floor, and the boat says, "Come with us." And he says, "Oh, no, God will take care of me." And he's up on the roof later on that day, and a helicopter comes and drops a ladder, and they say, "Come on," and he says, "Oh, God will take care of me." And several hours later, the water rises, and he drowns, and he gets up into heaven, and he says to St. Peter, he says, "I want to see God." He said, okay. He walks up to God, he goes, what's with this? And God says, "What do you want from me? I sent the boat, I sent the car, I sent the helicopter." So when my brother died and I got cancer, I sort of figured that the car and the boat came, and I wasn't going to wait for the helicopter. There are more people thinking about doing this career switch than ever before. The opportunity cost of doing it, meaning how much money I could make in the private sector if I wasn't working in a nonprofit, has gone down. So that's good. There is a much more, and I'm sort of gauging this off of studies that have been done in business school, plus the 15 calls a week I get from people who are thinking about switching careers. There's much more of it. And I think the challenge for us is to convince people that they can be challenged in the nonprofit community. There's historically been a theory that smart people go into business and stupid people go into nonprofit, or at least touchy-feely people, whereas business people don't. We have to get rid of that and let people know that running a nonprofit is actually much harder. I do a class on stakeholder analysis, and I explain to people, we go through it, that the typical for-profit business has 3 stakeholders. They have customers, employees, and owners, and they're all there to maximize revenues. A nonprofit has, on average, 24 to 26 stakeholders, and they're all there for different reasons. I mean, if you have 5 board members at IBM, they're all there to maximize revenues for shareholders. If you have 5 board members at a nonprofit, they're there for 6 different reasons. They're there because Joe asked me, they're there because I have a belief in God that tells me I should be there, they're there because my son is autistic, they're there because their law firm told them they should get involved in a nonprofit so that they can network more and go to, So there's all these reasons, and how do you manage a board, volunteers, staff that are all there for different reasons? Makes it more challenging. The question is, how do we convince business people that that challenge will make their life exciting enough? So I'm glad to see there's more books coming out about people's life stories. So.